Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devil Sunday from the Primetime Radio Studios. It is Game Day Live, streaming everywhere you could find podcasts. That could be Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, Twitch, anywhere in the world. It'll be on Spotify and Apple later on in the day. I am Vinnie Parisi of Pucks and Pitchforks blog, and I am here with the Sunday Show edition host, Shorts Guy. What's going on, my man?
Not much, Vinny. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. The weather, it's turning a little bit. Hopefully we get some nice weather this week here in Illinois and over there in New Jersey. Sam Wu is out once again. He is feeling under the weather, so he is replaced once again. And that's the third time in a row. I did it on purpose that time using the word replace. He could never be replaced. But of course, Short Guy, you're stepping in. Are you excited for tonight's game between the New Jersey Devils and the Montreal Canadiens?
I am, because the Devils are playing, but I do know it's a matchup. It's definitely a basement matchup today, unfortunately. I would like to see us get a win, get that bad taste of yesterday out of our mouth. It's a quick turnaround. But yeah, I'm just excited to see the Devils play. How about you? You excited for Devils Sunday today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Devil Sunday is always nice. It's a nice little way to avoid the Sunday scaries, of course, for those of you who are getting ready for a big week ahead. But, Devils Canadiens used to be one of the premier matchups in the NHL, and now it's two teams that are just not going to the playoffs. So, I like seeing Jack Hughes play against Cole Caulfield. That's always fun. These are two teams that are hoping that they can get things turned around by the time next season starts. I actually like the Devils' chances of doing that a little bit more than I do Montreal. But, whenever they play, I want to go over yesterday's game a little bit. They played the Washington Capitals, and they played them hard, and there were things that went their way. I think Washington's goaltender played a little bit better than Nico Dawes did, unfortunately. And, we saw production from the guys we want to see production from. I mean, Jesper Bratt scored a goal assisted by Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. That's what, the stuff you like to see when you watch this team. But I got to ask you, what's your immediate reaction to that?
It's just good to see that production. To see these young guys doing so well and putting the puck in the net. Scoring doesn't seem to be our weakness. We've got this dynamic scoring. For the first time in a while, we have some dynamic scorers, and I love that. It's just, unfortunately, we cannot hold a game. It seems to be goaltending is our big Achilles heel. But as far as our scoring, I love it. It looks phenomenal. I mean, Jack Hughes, watching him yesterday, he's turning into that player that everyone was hoping for. And speaking of Hughes, I've got a game on right now, and I believe it's the NCAAs. I think I just saw his brother Luke on the ice, Devils prospect. So Devils, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, I'm so happy with our scoring. I just wish we had solid goaltending, and that's the toughest part of all this, is that our goaltending is lacking, and we are a franchise that was built on goaltending since the late 80s. So
yeah. I remember when they drafted Hischier first overall, like the promo for the draft was New Jersey, the team built on goaltending and defense for the better part of 3 decades, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now it's the complete opposite. It's just so obvious that it's the opposite. Jesper Bratt is going to have north of 70 points. Jack Hughes might touch the 70-point mark in only 60-something games played that I think he can reach if he plays every game the rest of the season. Hischier is going to be in the low 60s after a slow start offensively, but we know that once things started to really cool down in terms of the COVID and some of the injuries that this team has dealt with early on in the year, all 3 of those guys have just been phenomenal. And you combine that with a Dougie Hamilton, and, we have news today that Miles Wood is coming back.
Finally.
It's going to be really fun to watch. Yeah, so let's touch on that. Miles Wood is back. For the first time this season, he will be playing tonight. There are some rumblings out there about whether or not this is a good decision, getting him back in this early. I'd like to know your thoughts. Miles Wood, BMW line, what are you thinking for old Mr. Wood?
Well, I think first game back in a really long while, he's going to be rusty. So I'm not expecting the world from him today. I'm expecting, I wouldn't be shocked to see him on the fourth line, get him out there, get him a couple shifts, get him acclimated to the game because there's a big difference between practice and gameplay. So you might see that. If he has a fantastic game, I think a little bit extra. If he just has a so-so game, I'm not going to be shocked and I'm not going to be worried because it's been so long since he's been in regular gameplay. So expectations for him today, I believe, are a little bit low, only because it's been so long since he's seen the ice in this type of situation. I would love to see him with a stellar game, but hey, you know what? Just to have him back is great. Just to get the BMW line together would be good. But again, I would love to see that line. I don't know if they would have that instant chemistry today. But it's good to see him back, skating and into gameplay before the season's over. Kind of maybe get rolling into next year too.
Absolutely. And we're here, game 66, I believe this is. And
Hmm.
before we move any further, I do want to say congratulations to Michael B for winning tickets to tonight's game via
There you go.
watching Devils After Dark last night. The Devils are going to take on the Canadiens. And just so everybody watching this knows, Michael B's not going to be the last winner. After tonight's
No.
game on Devils After Dark, there's going to be a trivia question going on, and it's going to be on the post game show that we do here on the Let's Go Devils podcast. And there's going to be a giveaway for tickets to next Sunday's game against the New York Islanders. So it's going to be really good. Make sure you tune into that. And as we progress here on Game Day Live, I'm curious, is there a certain matchup that you're looking for, particularly between two American players, that'll go on tonight when the Devils play the Canadiens here at the Prudential Center?
Well, I mean, of course, but I know you were talking about this. You and I were talking about this a little bit pregame. So I know you're very excited about this. So why don't you tell me what your thoughts on this big American matchup is? I
Yeah.
I do remember before we get going. I do remember listening to a Montreal Canadiens feed for a game a couple weeks ago, and they were none too pleased with this American.
Yeah. So it's Jack Hughes and Cole Caulfield. They were lineys over at the United States National Development
Mm-hmm.
Program. They had incredible success together. Jack Hughes, as many might be not too shocked to hear, was the incredible playmaker on that team, and Cole Caulfield was scoring lots of goals, which it's interesting to me because Jack Hughes has 22 goals and only 40 something games played. So
Yeah.
he might even be into the 50s now, but it's not as many as you think. He's on like a 39 to 42 ish goals pace, depending on how many games he would have played. And that's a lot of goals for a guy who's
Oh
considered a
yeah.
pass first type player.
Oh
So,
yeah.
they call him Goal Caulfield, and Jack Hughes is over here scoring lots of goals. So I'm very excited to see these two play against each other, and it's going to be good times. And like you said, people in Montreal were none too pleased with Cole
Yeah.
Caulfield a couple weeks ago, and then they fired their coach and hired Martin St. Louis, and he's really stepped up big some of these games. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the year progresses for Cole Caulfield. But I'm excited to see these two good friends play against each other tonight.
Yeah, and you got to imagine that the excitement's there between the two of them. When you go from being line mates to being, I guess you want to call it adversaries. Uh, Obviously, I've never done it at the professional ranks, like Jack and Cole do it. But whenever I have to play against friends of mine, my number one thing when I'm in net is to just make sure that anyone else can score. Obviously, I don't want anyone to score, but my friends are not allowed to score when they're playing against me. So I'm sure that they must have something. I'd be curious if they have a little bit of maybe a friendly bet between the two of them. It's all that fun stuff that these guys do. But I was actually listening to that Montreal feed I mentioned listening to. I was listening to it the day before they fired their head coach and brought in Marty St. Louis. So that was kind of like the apex of their season at that point, the low point, because they have quite turned it around a little bit. Nothing dramatic, but they seem to have found a little bit of a different gear with Marty St. Louis there, and have improved a little bit, which I'm sure a lot of people would say that is exactly what they would have hoped the Devils would have done, but obviously we didn't. And Cole Caulfield playing better under Marty St. Louis. How could you not play better under such a storied player like Marty St. Louis? An undrafted kid, played in Vermont, about 5 foot nothing, becomes a big time player in the NHL. Unfortunately, he was a Ranger for a little bit, so he's a little tainted. But I guess you can forgive him a little bit for that.
Yeah, and he was just upset that he got left off the Olympic roster by
Mm-hmm.
Yzerman, and he asked for a trade following that little thing, and he ended up getting to play in the Olympics anyway because of Stamkos' injury. But he was traded to the Rangers, and there's no shock that he went to the Rangers and had immediate success there. They went to the Stanley Cup final. I know they had another appearance in the conference final with St. Louis. So everywhere that man has sort of went in the last 20 years, whether it be as a coach or a player, he's just been a winner. And you
Yeah,
love to see
he's
it.
a winner.
I'm part of the short guy gang. I'm only like 5'8", and I know I'm probably around St. Louis height. So I like hearing about the short guys being kings, and that's exactly what St. Louis has been. So, when Montreal comes into town, though, and it's a team that I would say they're worse than the Devils. At least, at very minimum, the Devils have two bona fide number one centers that they're going to have playing as the 1A and 1B, two-headed monster,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it. Hopefully, Dawson Mercer's looked really good. Luke Hughes is on the way. We'll see what happens with guys like Stillman and Mohamedoulan and Paul. And,
Mm-hmm.
they're probably, I'm forgetting, Boquist has looked really good at times this season. Miles Wood is back. Graves has been awesome. Need a
Yep.
goalie. So I'd rather be the
Yeah.
Devils at this point. What are you expecting to see from Montreal?
Well, I'm expecting to see them, play a decent game because, like I said earlier, they've kind of had a little that new coach bounce. Nothing spectacular. I mean, their last 5 games, 2 wins and 3 losses. They did win last night 4-2 against Toronto. Which is that's not too bad of a. We lost to Toronto last week, but here they beat Toronto 4-2. And we're both coming off of back-to-backs, so that could factor in. I did not see if they were away to Toronto or if they were home last night, but either way, they had to travel here. We had to travel home. Roughly, not too big of a difference in distance. So you got to imagine coming off of a back-to-back, the game could potentially be a little bit sloppy in the beginning, just from tired legs. It could even be sloppy at the very end from that exhaustion kicking in. But the one thing that I think the Devils and the Canadiens mirror each other with is neither team really has that strong number one goalie that you're going to want. With Carey Price being out all year for his for his issues, they never really found a good really solid replacement in net for him. And the Devils likewise. We've gone through, what is it now? I think we've started 7 different goalies this year. I think we're coming close on the record, something like
Yeah,
that.
I could try and
It's
think of it off the top of my head. It's Blackwood, Dawes, Schmid,
yeah,
um,
Wedgwood,
Bernier, Wedgwood,
Bernier.
and
That's 5.
I got 5. Yeah, it's definitely up there.
We're up there. Yeah, we're up there.
It's tough. It's tough to win. If you figure out your goaltending situation, it solves a lot of problems. I
Oh,
remember
big
that
time.
one year. There was that one year where the Minnesota Wild were a very similar team to the Devils, but they weren't as
Mm-hmm.
far out of it when they realized the trouble, and so they traded for Devin Dubnyk, and then they like rode him into the playoffs. They were like 10 points out of the playoffs, and then he ended up like really helping them. All the advanced stats pointed to the blue paint. I'm like not like the biggest advanced stats guy in the world. I like to use them as a
Mm-hmm.
tool because I also watch every game. So if you watch every game, then you can use the advanced stats as a tool to form your opinion. That told me the Wild needed a goalie that year. Same thing with the Devils this year. The Montreal Canadiens were heavily outplayed yesterday by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I had it on. It was one of the games I was watching, and they were heavily outplayed by the Leafs, and they still managed to win.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes hockey's weird,
Yeah.
and hopefully the Devils can outplay them tonight and beat them because I think they're capable of doing so, and I know you probably do too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are definitely capable of beating them. I mean, they are below us in the standings, so technically we should be beating them since they are technically worse than us in the standings. It's just a matter of can they pull it together? Can they put that complete game? We were talking earlier. We gotta assume that uh, Gillies is playing today, coming off a back-to-back. I don't think we have a lineup yet. I know I have an alert from NHL. Let's see what that is. No, that's not a lineup. Damn. But yeah, so I'm assuming, and I think you and I are both in the same boat that we're assuming it's going to be Gillies, only
Yep.
because of the back-to-back. But at this point, who knows? Gillies has not been strong whenever he's played. He is a backup. You can tell from his play, he's definitely more of a backup caliber player. But uh, I don't know. In a back-to-back game situation, you would think both goalies are playing, but who knows at this point?
Yes, absolutely. So, in addition to getting Miles Wood back in the lineup, they're also getting Pavel Zacha back in the lineup. Um, okay, I'm lying. He's close to returning for the New Jersey Devils. Boston is a
Okay.
possibility, which is their next game on Thursday. So, adding some of these guys back. I know Pavel Zacha, he has his issues.
Hmm.
Very intriguing player when it comes to the New Jersey Devils fan base and his value to the team and what he brings. Um, you gotta like overall where this team's at going into this game, though. The way Bratt played yesterday, I know we talked about Bratt, Hughes, and Heischer, but I've just been
Hmm.
thoroughly impressed all year long with these three guys. But there's one guy in particular I want to ask you about before we start really getting into our predictions for the game, and that's Ryan Graves. Me and Sam Wu have talked so much about Ryan Graves on this pregame show all season long. And one thing he's done a little more this year than I thought he was going to do was chip in offensively. He scored some goals. He's got a couple assists. I think he's in the 20s for assists now. It's not bad for a guy who's touted as a defensive defenseman.
Hmm.
And he had a big hit yesterday that cost him a 2-minute minor. I don't think that was one of the penalties where Washington scored. But what do you think of the gravy train?
I'm thinking he's been very good for us, very consistent back there on defense, and that's been our weak spot over the last couple seasons. Is our defense was lacking, and we bolstered that not only with him but with Dougie Hamilton coming in. I think his defensive play has been consistently well for us, and that's what we need. Anytime you have someone that's consistently good on your defensive core, but then is chipping in some scoring, that's really a key to success. Getting that secondary scoring from your defense, and from players that are not named Bratt, Hughes, and Heischer. You know, like you said, Pavel Zacha coming back soon. That could be good. That can add some more scoring. But to go on Graves, I've been pleased with his with with his defensive play as a Devil this season. He was a good pickup. It's been a successful tenure for him so far here with the Devils.
Absolutely. And, Amanda did tweet that warm up's underway. Miles Wood is zipping around. So it's going to be
There we
interesting to
go.
see how he plays. I'm still looking for a word on the goalie, but, we're probably not going to have time the way that sometimes these warm up updates come out for us. So we're going to get
Yeah.
to that portion of the show. What are your predictions for tonight's game?
Oh man. Without knowing who the goaltender is, I'm
Yeah, me and
yeah.
Sam do
It's
it
like
blind pretty much every
yeah,
game. We're
yeah.
like, we have no clue who the goalie is going to be. Most of the time lately, we could just assume it's Nico Dawes, but if they didn't get totally outshot, or they completely outshot the Capitals yesterday. So I don't know if the lack of rubber that Dawes had to see yesterday will make him play in the second half of a back-to-back, and also the fact that they don't play again till Thursday against the Bruins. But I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, that's tough to play him again.
It is, but who knows? Sometimes this coaching staff's been unpredictable. So prediction, I'll go 4-2 Devils.
Okay,
I'll go
I
4-2.
like
How about
that.
you?
Yeah, so I'm thinking a win too, regardless of who's in net, just because who's in net for Montreal? Is it somebody that is better than Gilly?
It,
Maybe, but the Montreal Canadiens in general aren't better than the New Jersey Devils in general. So I'm gonna pick the Devils. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a little more wide open. I'll go 5-3 Devils, 4-3 game, and
okay.
then hit an empty netter. Maybe Miles Wood is able to get on the board and help the Devils get a win. It's hard for guys to get on the board in their first game back after a
Mm-hmm.
long injury like that. But there's just something about the way he plays his game where if somebody were to come back energized and ready to go after all these months off, it would be him for me. And he's not the most skilled player on the team, but he's very fast and he's very energetic.
He's a spark plug, and I totally agree. He's a spark plug for this team, and he could just go out there and just his energy being back in the room and being thrilled to get back into a game could help lift this team to a victory on its own, regardless of who's in net for us. Just his presence alone could be good for this team, which I'm hoping is the case.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And before we head on out of here, I want to remind everybody to tune in to Devils After Dark, because for the second night in a row, you are going to have your chance to win 2 tickets to a New Jersey Devils game. It will be next Sunday's game against the New York Islanders. So you'll be tuning in with Scotty of SiriusXM Liquid Metal, and of course, recapping all the things that happened here in today's game against the Montreal Canadiens. And, it should be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it. Make sure you tune into the post game and get yourself a chance to win the tickets. Shorts Guy, thank you very much for joining me. Is there anything you want to say before we head on into the game?
No, just it was a pleasure being here. I don't think I've been on with you since the beginning of the season, so it's been a pleasure. Here's hoping for a better result than yesterday in the Devils' victory today.
Yes, absolutely. It was a pleasure having you on. I love being on camera with all you guys. It's so much fun. And, it's been a good season, and, cheers to the rest of it. I hope everybody enjoys the game. And as always, here on this show, let's go Devils.